Hi, my name is Devin Reeve, and I'm one of the producers and the line producer of Rockin' a Hard Place.
How'd you become involved in the project?
Well, I was friends with James, and James hit me up saying that he was directing this amazing pilot, and we did a conference call with David, and next thing I know, we were prepping the next day, so that's how fast it happened.
Do things usually happen that fast?
Well, normally you'll get hired, but then there's usually like a week maybe that there's a downtime before you actually start your work and prepping for a film. But because of the holidays coming up, that we decided to rush it. So as soon as we were hired, the next day we were up and running, trying to get everything ready before the Thanksgiving holiday. So we probably prepped this in about 8 days.
And so the prep involves what? Can you take us from your first step?
Sure. Well, the prep involves casting, locking the script, finding your locations, me, the line producer, doing a budget, allocating money to where it needs to go, hiring the crew, getting all the vendors set up for the equipment, getting the gear, doing a tech scout where we all go around to the different locations and all the departments have a chance to see everything before we actually start shooting, so they can prep for that location, to a table read, and then that's a lot of detailed stuff that has to happen. So we were the original plan was to shoot this the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday, where you have everything that's closed for 4 days, nothing is open. And I was like, guys, we gotta move this we gotta push it by 2 days. There's no way we will hurt the production if we just go right into it and not have those extra 2 days to get everything ready. And thankfully we did.
Is a lot of your prep behind the computer, and then once you get here it's more hands-on?
It is, yeah. Most of my prep is phone calls, emails, computers. It's basically just calling the resources that I use over and over again, going, hey, it's Devin, I got another project, this is what I need. And which is, once you've done it long enough, you have those relationships to call, which is fantastic. But then again, sometimes it's, you got to make sure everything comes within that budget that's been allocated for a project. And depending on if there's any special effects or stunts or animals or kids, you have to take all that into account, which can be a little tricky sometimes, but we always pull it off.
Do you have some sort of template on your computer that's like a checklist for you that you work within?
I do. We have it's called a pre-production checklist. So then we have a giant board, and so we'll start writing down what we've done and checking it off, and we'll take the cast and we'll put the cast up on the walls so we can see so we can start visualizing the cast and seeing how they match up within the story.
How long have you been doing this?
I grew up an actor, and probably about 12 years ago I transitioned into producing as well. So now I still act, but also produce, and then I line produce as well, which kind of covers a broad spectrum. And I direct every once in a while. I've done some music videos and whatnot, but acting and producing is really the passion that drives me to stay in this.
What type of temperament and skills does a producer or line producer need to have?
Patience. A lot of patience. lot of yeah. It's that, and then it's really people management skills. And oddly enough, it's just being able to multitask and manage a large group of people who are all different personalities. Your wardrobe and your makeup are usually the more kind of fashionable type people, where in your G&E guys are a little more, rough. They're like the blue collar workers, if you will. No offense.
Or just give it to me straight type
Yeah,
of
no,
thing.
it's like it's like those guys. I mean, these guys are, they're setting up lights, or they're carrying heavy equipment. They're driving the trucks, and it's, so it just takes the people who are just really driven to come out here and work 12, 13 hours a day and get it done. So no matter the department, it's about the ability of people to really come here and have a great personality and positive attitude to work 12, 14-hour days and get the job done. So for me, when I actually hire anyone, from the PA to the grip to the gaffer to whatever the department, I usually base it off their personality and the type of energy that they bring in the interview. Because to me, anyone can learn a skill set. Anyone can really, build that resume of accolades and But if they have a bad attitude or negative energy, and their morale is not very high, like I won't hire them. I don't care who they are, because I want my sets to be ran at the highest level. So when the problems always happen on set, so when something happens, I want a team that's going to say that we got this, we know how to get around this, and keep the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like in some sense you have to be a chameleon to deal with different personalities, and maybe they're not bad personalities, but they just receive information in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was smart in the way I went about learning about producing. Is when I was younger, I worked for a production company, but when I moved here, I just focused on acting. And before I shot my first film, I spent a year working production. I called up all my friends that worked it and said, "Hey, can I come work in your department?" So for myself, I worked like in catering. I worked, crafty. I did worked in I did a gross grip, which I would never do again. But I have much respect to those guys. I've worked at every department because I wanted to understand the fundamentals of how that department worked. And I thought as a producer, that education would be great for me to be able to communicate properly with those guys, to know when to understand their terminology, to know what they needed, to know what they didn't need it. When they're like, "We want this, but you really don't need it. You want it, and we can't afford it," or "Yeah, we can't afford it."
Sounds like a lot of too what you do is to assure people that things are going to be fine, and then you fix it behind the scenes.
Yes,
and keeping calm.
We never want the production team or the crew to really know what we're dealing with behind the scenes. You know, so for example, we had something happen the other day, which was we couldn't keep under wraps because an actor just didn't show up.
Sure.
So when something like that happens, you can't keep it under wraps. But
right.
We always have a solution, and we always have hey buddy. This is what you deal with when you're in charge.
Just gotta keep it together.
That's right, man. Appreciate it. These are called C47s for whatever reasons. To me, they're clothespins.
Clothespins, yeah. I remember drying my laundry.
I forgot why a lot of the terminology is interesting because it comes from like when they were making movies in the 20s and 30s, they just came up with random names for things like this.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, so it is, we want to keep everything kind of, behind the scenes, and always have a plan A, B, and C, and if something goes wrong, we resolve it. And that's really the biggest job as a producer, is problem solving on the fly. And making sure that things keep moving.
In terms of the budget, what are you spending the most money on, and where are you able to kind of cut back a little bit?
It depends on each production. A lot of productions, it's special effects. Some of the productions you're spending a lot of your money on talent. The crew allocates probably between 1/4 and a half of your budget, depending on how long you're shooting. But it's kind of a fine balance between all the departments, really. But usually, if it's a special effects film, that will take up the majority of a large chunk of the money.
How do you deal with neighbors that maybe don't want you to shoot in the neighborhood, or they're super curious and they want to be part of the production? Because this is LA, but still, everybody's still, when they see the trucks and possible talent and the camera, people go through a wide variety of attitudes, emotions.
Yeah, LA is interesting because they either complain, and if we're permitted, as long as we're permitted properly, there's nothing they can really do but get irritated. Now they can come out and say, "Well, you can't put my house in the scene, or you can't do this unless you pay me." And sometimes we'll just say, "Here's an X amount of money just to leave us alone." But for the most part in LA, people are usually pretty chill, unless you're shooting overnight. Like this neighborhood, if we were shooting overnight, we would then have to be very quiet hours, so we have to be very quiet and cautious, respectful of the neighbors. But it's still challenging when you're shooting overnights in a neighborhood because people have day jobs. They have to get up early. We shot something last year, and we had a night shoot. And it was a horror film, and of course the girl comes running out of the house screaming, and it's like 3 in the morning, and the cops show up because the neighbor thought someone was getting mugged. So that's interesting. But people in LA really don't bother you that much. I just did 2 movies in Utah, and we shot a film, and we did a Bollywood film last year in Vegas, which was interesting. And we shot on the Strip. and we gathered a large crowd gathered around us because we were filming right in front of the Bellagio and some other places, and it was interesting because the stars of the movie and even the director are huge megastars in India, and so there was a lot of Indian tourists there for the holiday. So we probably had like 50, 60 people watching us, and they were like signing autographs. That was pretty cool because shooting in LA, no one really cares.
Sure, except for parking. I was just wondering in terms of like parking in the neighborhood. I know because parking in LA is an issue.
Yeah.
So how do you try to appease the neighborhoods usually, or if a neighbor's upset?
Normally we have parking lots.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll find for places like this location, we'll find usually we find like a nice church, and instead of paying a parking lot for the money, like we end up donating money to the church to use their parking lot.
Oh, very nice.
Which is nice.
Okay.
So they're very polite, and as long as nothing's going on at the church, they're really nice about it. We actually shot in a church parking lot 2 days ago. The Reverend came over and saw us and hung out with us for a little bit, and so we were it's kind of a nice gesture to give back to the church, and
Sure.
versus just renting and paying ridiculous money for a parking lot that's going to overcharge you.
Devin, when you first receive a script as a producer, what are some of the things that you're looking at and needing to give a writer-director feedback on? And then also when you receive a script as a line producer, same thing.
Okay. When I first receive a script, I read it, and I usually base the job off if the script is good, or if it has the potential to be good. So what we'll do is, if I'm brought on board, I'll read it. We'll do notes on it. We'll work with the other producers and the director to get it where it needs to be. To make sure things are either flowing smoothly, the continuity is there, that there's nothing that doesn't make any sense, and that it's just a good story, because as a producer we want to tell good stories. We don't want to tell bad stories. So that's the first and foremost thing, that we look at the characters and the content that's in the story. As a line producer, I look at it and go, well, what budget what's the target budget you want to shoot this at? And I'll read it, and the first thing I'll say after that is, hey man, you done, Zach?
What?
You done?
Making noise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my close-up, man. It's part of a producer job.
Trying to work.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you. So as a line producer, I find out what the target budget is, and then I'll read the script and we'll say, great, we can actually do this for the budget you want to do it at, or go, you can't make this for this budget. Or you can do this for the budget, but you're risking the quality of the production, and the crew is going to be, they're going to be mad, they're going to be exhausted, because it's not going to be the film that you want. Well, and I had that happen on another film, and they're like, we can make it for this, and I'm like, you can't. You got a guy like being lit on fire, you got stunts in every other scene, there's a car chase. I'm like, you can't. No, you need like another couple, like $100,000. But I cover myself and go, we'll make it work. And I put it in the email. I'm just stating for the record, I said that you can't do this for that, just for the record. So if we go over, it's not on me. And of course, we went over, and I told the producer, the executive producer said, this is the original budget I submitted, and this is the budget that we came in at, and they were like $2,000 off. So, I mean, they were fine with it, but it's just, I think a lot of people write, especially writers, people who are writers or directors or writers and producers and actors, they get so married to their script that they don't, I mean, it's important to take the advice of someone else and not be so married to it, because people are going to see things that you don't see. And when you hire someone, you hire them for a reason. You have to trust them and listen to them, and so that's the important factor. I think even as a writer or a director, and you bring a project, it's like you have to listen to your team, because they're going to do what's best. They have your back. You can't if you don't trust that, then you shouldn't be working with them. So that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that it's that you're giving everybody what they want. You're giving the investors what they want. You're giving the writer what they want. You're giving the director what they want. And just making sure it just gets done. And man, then it looks amazing. Because the last thing you want is an investor to put money into it, and then when it's done, you go, wow, this is a piece of shit. Like, nobody wants to do that. So like, why not do it right?
What is the biggest misconception or the biggest thing that people think, an investor or writer director thinks that they can scale back the budget on, but in reality they can't? And you have to kind of let them know.
Anyone who wants to, as I always say, okay, is if you're going to do, well, in this day and age because of technology, a lot of people like to do things on a low budget scale. You know, whether it's an ultra low budget or a low budget, you know, the two different categories. And it's like, if you have kids, if you have animals, if you have stunts, those are things you cannot scale back on. You got to have a studio teacher there if you have kids. The kids can only work a certain amount of hours, so it's going to shorten your day. If you have animals, you got to hire an animal trainer, unless it's a dog that's already trained. If you have stunts, you know, stunt guys will come out, but there's a minimum for SAC stunts, and you know, stunt guys aren't going to, you know, work for below a certain thing, especially if they're going to be set on fire or whatnot. So, I mean, there's always a way around certain things, and people would do it, but again, you're jeopardizing the quality of people you're bringing on board. So I think a lot of people, they make a script and go, we want to make it for this, versus, I say, write a script that matches your budget. Don't write a script and go, well, we can make it work for this much money anyway. No. If you write a script that is a $5 million script, and you only have 500,000, it's not going to work. So you need to scale that script down and make it work for the budget that you have. So I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they don't make the script match the budget they actually have.
But then conversely, what do you think people spend too much money on, but really they could scale back on? Is it location? Thinking they need some amazing place, when really you're just going to see a little bit of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, in LA it's different because everyone is very familiar with how filming works around here. So, you know, you can get lucky and get some great deals on locations, but lots of times it's, you know, people are charging you a lot of money. You know, in Utah we got locations for free or for like $1,000.
Wow.
You know, which is really hard to do here. We've done it, but it's, you know, it's personal favors. But I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people, well, that's probably about the same amount of money. I mean, there's your hard cost of like money you're going to spend regardless. You know, your crew. The bigger mistake is people overpay people when they don't have the budget for it. That's the biggest thing. It's really just being mismanaged, because you can, you know, if we jump on a $2 million movie, you know, the crew is going to be paid $300-400 a day, plus the overtime. You know, if you're doing a $500,000 movie, people working for $150-200 a day. You know, so, but I think a lot of people just mismanage that, and they go, oh, well, it's this much, you know, $500,000, and we're going to still pay them $400 a day. I think it's just they overpay people. I think that's the biggest thing. They're not aware, or they try to take care of their friends, or they just don't manage it right.
So let's suppose they do find a cheaper location in Utah or some other state. Then what are they weighing in terms of the cost to bring people in, or should we hire local talent? Like what are some of then the questions that you ask? If you have an LA-based production, but
Right.
you decide to take it to another state
Yeah.
that's cheaper, what are you looking at to make sure that it all balances out and that you're not spending the same amount?
We're comparing the cost of crew, putting them up in a hotel, their travel pay, their per diem rate for the show, and we're weighing that against how much we were spent on locations.
Okay, and so you kind of tally it all up, and
Yeah.
whichever comes out less is the better option, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So for the 2 Hallmark movies we did, it worked out better to do it in Utah. It still was about the same, but the setting was right, and we brought 2 actors in from LA, and then everyone else, actor-wise, were local hire actors. You know, so that kind of helped with the budget as well. And then I didn't line produce that one, but I was a part of the team, the production team. But doing an out-of-state project, it's just really about the per diems and all that versus, you know, just keeping it here. You know, if you're going to spend $25,000 in locations, or $30,000 in locations here, and you can do that for $10,000 in Utah, then it makes sense to take everybody up there. It balances out because the money is still going to be sent. The money is money. So if I have $1 million, it's $1 million. It just depends on where I put it.
Sure, sure. And are you also looking at tax credits and targeting those states first to see if that works, and if it doesn't?
Yes. Yeah, basically, yeah. So a lot of times it depends on what the story setting is. So if it's, if it's evergreens and rolling hills or mountains, it's not going to be LA. You have to go somewhere else to get that setting, especially if there's a lot of exterior shoots.
So then if you are going to apply for the tax credit, who do you contact within that state?
Just the film commission.
Okay. And then is there like a waiting, is certain states take longer for certain, paperwork?
Yeah, each state with the tax incentive is a little different. Whereas like South Carolina, you can go there and they'll just, give you a check when you arrive. In other states, it takes 30 days. It just depends on the state, how they have it structured.
Devin, let's take the hypothetical budget of $1 million. Let's say you have a writer-director that says that's what they have. What is your litmus test to make sure that that's exactly what will fall under that amount? What are you doing? What are you testing to make sure that?
Okay. Once I read the script, and it says $1 million budget, I'll read the script, and first I'll look at how many locations there are, how many actors there are, if there's any stunts. Those are the first three things I'll look at. And then based off that, I will go through, and again, also how many pages is the script, because if it's if it's a 90-page script, are we going to shoot for 3 weeks? Are we going to shoot for 4 weeks? If it's 120 pages, are we going to shoot for 5 weeks or 6 weeks? So that extends the budget. So based on the number of pages, that has a lot to do with it also. So after I do all that, then first I'll go, okay, we can shoot this in, say, 4 weeks. And then I go, this is the crew then I plug in all the crew that I know is necessary, that we're going to need to have for the type of film that it is. Once I get the crew all done, then I go back and do the cast and go that way, because once I have the hard numbers in for all the crew, we're going to need those guys. There's no negotiation. We need those guys. Then I put in how much for catering and how much for crafty and all that. And then we're left with the locations, and then I do the actors. And once I have all the hard costs in, I go back and go, you got this much to pay actors, you got this much for locations. What do you want to do? You want to put more money towards actors and less towards locations, but again, you have to allocate enough money to locations to make sure you can get them. And then you gotta. There's always like a 10% contingency in the budget that we allocate, and then you gotta factor in post-production. Unless the post-production is being done all in house, and you're not going to include that in the production budget. But it's interesting because the budgets that I normally do, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of line producers, is they're just they're ever changing. So I'll have a budget and allocate a certain amount of money, and I always kind of overcompensate in the beginning, because then I know once I start negotiating rates or whatnot, I can start putting in real numbers. The budget always seems to, the numbers, like I said, the money's the same, it's just the money's just moving around. So if I end up saving $5,000 on locations, that $5,000 is just going to go towards something else that's going to need more money. So it's kind of less like a little puzzle is constantly shifting as we go through the production.
What about production insurance, and what's the normal deductible? And I mean, I know nothing about production insurance.
No, it just depends on how much you want to pay. So if I pay $7,000 for insurance, it's probably about $2,500 deductible.
Okay.
I can pay more and have a $1,000 deductible. It just depends on the project, because each project, based on what's involved in it, the insurance is different.
And what's the term the term would be for the term of the production, right? So if it's a 4-week thing and you go over, how do you then renew the insurance?
Right. They'll normally do like if it's a 4-week shoot, they'll normally do like a 2-month policy.
Oh, okay.
Or a 3-month policy,
okay.
Which it covers through prep and all the way through post-production.
Okay. And then if you needed to do any reshoots, unless it was in that time period, you'd have to then renew it?
Yeah. I mean, anytime during production, we can always extend it.
Okay, great.
I can even, it doesn't really have any cost. I think it costs that much more money just to say we want to do it for 6 months versus 3 months. And there's some companies that just constantly carry production insurance. They just always have it, which makes it nice and easy. But we usually tend to do, because each production is its own LLC. We usually cover that LLC separately.
So then, are you involved in getting the paperwork to the Secretary of State or whoever to do the articles of incorporation and all that? Or do you have an attorney do that?
Sometimes we have an attorney do it. Sometimes there's a place in Burbank. I forgot the name of it, but
A do-it-yourself legal type thing.
they give them everything, and then
Right.
like within 24 hours, like they're like, here, 48 hours, like here you go,
Okay.
which is nice. So I really not have to deal with all that.
Sure.
Too much
sure.
going
It's a
on.
lot.
So yeah, we normally have someone just do it for us.
Okay. And so then once the LLC is established, then that entity lives on and that covers the film?
Yeah, once we establish the LLC, it's just forever going, and so we start to pay the taxes on it and
Sure.
do all the fun stuff at the
Paperwork, yeah.
paperwork at the end of the year and
Right.
reconcile everything. But that's why we have production accountants. they do all that for us.
They enjoy all that.
Yeah, here you go. Let me know how it is. Yeah, which is we're on a lower budget production, and Larry and I, my business partner, try to. We're like, yeah, we can do all that. We did it, but never again. It's just too much work.
Sure.
It's just, and one thing about us, because we know how to do everything. It's just we have to prevent ourselves from going, yeah, we can do that, because we'll take on too much, and because we can, and it just is. That's how we get exhausted, and because we end up taking on too much, and it's better to have someone dedicated to that one job that can just stay with that one job and stays fresh, and we don't all get burnt out.
Sure. And speaking of burnout, what do you do to renew yourself, and how much time do you give yourself between projects?
It depends. I've gone back. I mean, in Utah, we shot those two films back to back, and so we had like a week break. However, because we were in production, the week was not really a break for us because we were still in the office working. So we had 2 days off in between. But typically, after a show is done, I'll take a week and just go, got a week to go do whatever. And sometimes I'll stay home and just relax and get caught up, and sometimes I'll go to Magic Mountain, and sometimes I'll see my parents in Vegas, and sometimes I'll take a trip to see friends somewhere. So it just depends.
Nice.
Yeah. It's interesting how projects come to us. So my business partner and I have a company called Innovate Productions. And for instance, a lot of people, we work as a creative and development producing team, but we also work as a line producer and a UPM team. So for example, this project, they reached out to us. They need a line producer, someone who can come in and really manage this whole team for what we're trying to do. And then other times people send us scripts and we develop our own content, and we produce it and develop it and raise the funding and do it ourselves. And then sometimes, I mean, we have another film going on right now that's actually filming while we're filming this, that a friend of ours was directing. He had another producer on it who didn't know what he was doing, so they fired him, and he's like, will you guys come in with your company and take over the production for me? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So we did that, and that's another reason why we're tired. But it's so we do a little bit. We're hired, but then we also do co-productions, and we partner up with people to create our own content and put things out there. So we do everything from music videos to commercials to feature films, and we have a music video coming up with Holly Holmes, who beat Ronda Rousey, coming up in February. And then we're actually doing a commercial with Ronda, before it was already set in place before she got beat, for an energy company that she has a sponsorship that she's a contract with. So, all types of different fun things are coming our way, and we developed a Halloween TV special that's right now in development that it's in a really good position to come out next year. And so we're kind of moving forward. Whether we create ourselves or people hire us, we just like to keep working.
Well, Devin, you said you've been doing this 15 years, is that right?
Yeah, I've been acting since I was a child, since I was 10,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've been producing for 12. First film I produced was 2005, so 10 years.
Okay. And so in the beginning, in 2005, did you already have inroads through the acting where you could reach out to people, or was there a website or someplace where you went to look for people looking for line producers or producers?
When I started, well, it's interesting because when I first said I want to produce my own stuff, very shortly after that, I realized that no one's just calling you just to produce. No one's calling to say, want to produce a film with me? Because if they are, they're calling you to produce it because they need funding. Because it's part of a producer's job is to help raise funding for it, to find the executive producers. So I taught myself to line produce. I went involved movie magic budgeting and read about it, and I was already good with managing money and managing people. And I said, oh, that's not that bad. And so I started, the first thing I line produced was a short film that was it was a $50,000 short film. Pretty good budget for a short film. And just kind of started from there, and then from there just started, I think the next thing I did was a feature film. That was like 200 grand, and then slowly just worked my way up. And so by making that transition into line producing, it opened up other doors for people to actually start calling. And it opened up doors for producing and for acting and for line producing, and it was a good move for myself because I was doing really well, and then I hit like a brick wall. You know, when I was like, man, what my manager said when I hit a certain age, I would hit a brick wall, and then after a couple of years, you'll kind of regain your momentum, which she was dead on. But that's kind of what I did in my spare time, and now it's, you know, I'm lucky to be able to have those different skills to help me stay busy all the time.
Devin, any tips for managing people for someone that maybe has rusty people skills?
Yeah, if someone is having trouble managing someone, to me the best advice I ever got was listen, have patience, and then find a resolution right away. I think a lot of people try to focus on what the problem is. So if there's an issue, at that point in time, all I care about is fixing the problem, finding that resolution so we can keep moving forward. Once we're back on track moving forward, then I'll go back to find out how do we get to that point to where something didn't happen the way it should have. And once I started taking that attitude, it kind of helped me keep things running smooth. Just because, you know, we're human, you know, we can get caught up in the moment and spend 15, 20 minutes, you know, why'd you do this and why'd you do that and how did this happen? That doesn't help anything. Let's fix it, then we'll go back and make the adjustment. And then if we have to keep making the adjustment because that person keeps messing up, then unfortunately we have to let that person go, which is never fun. But, you know, I'd rather educate someone and help make them better at what they do versus just going, oh, you screwed up once, you're done.
So it sounds like listen, patience, and fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then worry about how it got there.
Right.
Because some people just really just make a mistake and they just are unaware. And some people just screw up every once in a while. We all do, you know, we all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. It's just that the mistake keeps happening over and over again by the same person. That's when it becomes a problem.
Devin, let's take another hypothetical. Someone comes to you with a maybe $100,000 budget, and they ask you and your partner, Larry, to come and work, but they can't pay you outright. They're going to pay you once they get distribution, sort of in the back end.
Sure.
So how do you handle that?
First I would read the script. And if the script, well, let me start. So if someone comes to me with a $100,000 script and they don't want to pay, and they feel like they can't afford to pay my team up or Larry and I up front, but they won't give us points on the back end, then I will say, let's do a co-production deal. So right now it's 50-50, and then any other points given out to anybody else, we split that evenly.
We're moving on.
So we'll end up doing it like that. But again, it's based on if the script is good. And then I'll say, let me do a budget for it. And if I find room in the budget, even for $2,000, then we deal with it that way. Actually, the movie we're filming now is a little bit more than that, but we are taking everything on the back end. Now, 10 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I wouldn't have been in that position to do that. I would say no. Like if I'm going to work, like I gotta take a paycheck on it. But because we're so busy now, I can look at a project and go, this is a really great project. I believe in it. Yeah, let's rock it. You know, and make sure the script matches what we can afford, and get it done. And we do that. You know, it depends on the people involved, really. But you know, we just like to make really cool content and be proud of it. And I would tell someone, like, if you have $100,000, most people like to do this like big ensemble cast. I say no, don't do that. Put 10,000 or 15,000 towards, or 20,000 towards like a name actor that will sell your movie, and then everyone else pay them the regular SAG rate of $126 for the day, but get really good actors. Because what a lot of people will do, they'll put a bunch of C-level actors in their movie. That's not going to sell. You know, at AFM you see Steven Seagal everywhere, and we're like, why the hell is Steven Seagal in all these movies? Like, I mean, I'm a martial artist, so like I grew up a fan of his, but it's like, they're like, he still sells overseas. Like, he's making millions of dollars still selling international. You know, you kick Steven 50 grand for like a week's worth of work, he'll sell your movie and take the other 150 and put it all towards crew. You know, so there's ways to do it. So I mean, it's, but to answer the question, yeah, we do that based on the project. But I always find a little bit of money somewhere.
Devin, how much are you involved in the distribution of the film after it's made?
My distribution involvement is based on the project. So if I'm just line producing, it depends on the team. Sometimes they're like, we already have distribution. We have the people that we always work with. Great, fantastic. And then it's in other projects, they're like, yeah, I mean, you know, let's set up some meetings with your people. We'll set up meetings with my people, and let's just see who gives us the best deal, wants it the most. So it's a project basis, but I'm fully involved in it on our projects and know all about it. So that's always a good thing.